Amidst the relentless onslaught of the 9th hurricane in a mere 4 months, the villagers, once daring sailors, lay lifeless, claimed by the tempest's furious grasp. In the wake of the devastating winds and unforgiving waves, the village, once a beacon of life and joy, now stood as a desolate graveyard of shattered dreams. Hope, like the remnants of their homes, crumbled away, leaving the survivors to face a grim reality. The very land that they had called home for generations now displayed a sight of despair, as their food supply was no more, their shelter was gone, and many were dead. And so the survivors were forced to abandon their home. Yet, as the last desperate villager emerged from the ruins of what was once his sanctuary, the air began to tingle with an otherworldly energy. The moon cast an eerie glow upon the desolation, revealing a mysterious, pulsing red light dancing on the horizon. The villagers had abandoned all hope, but this radiant beacon beckoned the lone survivor, and so, intrigued and compelled, he ventured towards the shore where tragedy had struck so ruthlessly. The waves whispered tales of sorrow, and the wind carried the echoes of lost souls. Yet, the mysterious glow persisted. Against the backdrop of destruction, a single flame of curiosity ignited within that villager's heart. But still, that final villager, burdened by the weight of fate, knew that venturing towards that mysterious red light was a path veiled in destruction and certain death. And so, reluctantly, he was forced to just move on, leaving behind the ruins of his home. But the enigmatic glow lingered in the recesses of his mind, a haunting reminder of an unanswered question. And so, as he sought refuge in the next village, that lone survivor wasted no time in sharing his tale of that pulsing red light on the horizon. A collective curiosity ignited, and a communal decision was made to call upon someone known for braving the unknown, the legendary Steve. And so, news of this mysterious red light reached Steve's ears in just a mere few days, and the prospect of an uncharted mission intrigued him. The challenge resonated with his adventurous spirits as he accepted the call without hesitation, as, unlike the villagers, he could do this. And so, Steve, the courageous hero of countless tales, set forth towards the Forsaken Sea, driven by both intrigue and a sense of duty. In a short few months, he arrived at the location described by those villagers. And when that happened, Steve witnessed a mesmerizing sight. It was that radiant red light piercing the sky like a beacon. It was amazing. But the air began to crack with an eerie energy, and the atmosphere seemed to be full of secrets waiting to be unraveled. However, just as Steve began to delve deeper into that mystery, a malevolent force stirred in the heavens as a storm materialized out of the abyss, its darkness swallowing the landscape. Rain quickly descended like a torrential cascade, slashing the air with its relentless fury. Caught in the tempest, Steve fought back against the elements, his silhouette a mere flicker in the tumultuous night. Lightning danced across the sky, revealing the struggle etched upon his face. With every row the wind pushed against him, it was as if the very forces of nature had conspired to guard the secrets hidden within the red glow. In the climactic moments, the storm unleashed its full wrath. Blinded by driving rain, Steve stumbled, and the ocean below yawned wide to claim him. The waters closed over him, pulling him into the cold, dark depths. The hero, now a lone figure, sinking into the abyss, struggled against the currents, but the ocean's grip was unyielding as the red light continued to pulse above, casting an eerie glow upon the storm-tossed waves. The fate of Steve hung in darkness. The hero, who had faced countless challenges, now found himself in a struggle against the very forces he sought to uncover, sinking into the unknown depths of the cursed sea. Several hours passed, and against all odds, Steve awoke as he found himself standing at the entrance of an imposing ocean monument. The remnants of his boat lay submerged and shattered by that tempest. But, astonishingly, he was able to breathe, though how remained a mystery, considering the perilous depths from which he emerged. He was just grateful to live, as above the storm persisted in its fury, thunder reverberating through the air, consuming any life forms dumb enough to face that storm. And so, knowing that he wouldn't be able to surface, Steve prepared himself as he plunged towards that eerie monument. As he entered, a haunting emptiness consumed him. The water within was eerily still, a stark contrast to the chaos reigning outside. But still, Steve pressed on, his movements echoing in the cavernous halls of this underwater structure. And after a mere few minutes of exploration, a peculiar sound pierced the silence, echoing through the aquatic corridors. That was weird, yet driven by an unrelenting determination, Steve continued to navigate through the labyrinth, and as minutes stretched into an eternity, he moved through the monument's watery chambers, trying to find that mystery. Until, as if guided by fate or the unseen forces on the deep, Steve stumbled upon it. An elder guardian, ancient and imposing, stood at the epicenter, surrounded by a horde of its smaller kin, their eyes ablaze with an eerie light. It was magical, but quickly, panic seized Steve as he comprehended the gravity of this situation. He had no armor, he had no weapons, and he had no shield. His only defense lay in his quick wits and his desperate yearning for survival. Quickly, the Guardians, sensing an intruder, turned their gaze upon Steve. Their laser beams charging with lethal intent. Realization hit Steve like a tidal wave. He couldn't fight them. The odds were insurmountable. Yet, amidst the imminent doom, a spark of ingenuity ignited within him. He would use the Guardians' own destructive power against them. Summoning the reserves of his strength, Steve propelled himself forward, a sprint through the water, as if fleeting the grasp of death itself. The Guardians, relentless in their pursuits, unleashed their deadly beams, cutting through the darkened depths. Steve's mind raced faster than his swimming strokes as he formulated a daring plan. By weaving through the maze of laser beams, he aimed to incite chaos amongst the Guardians. His hope lay in manipulating their attacks to turn them against each other. And so, as the Guardians fired, Steve maneuvered with the precision of a seasoned warrior, leading the beams into deadly collisions. The once united front of the Guardians fractured into disarray as their beams intersected, causing chaotic eruptions of energy. The aquatic battleground became a canvas of destruction, with each Guardian inadvertently contributing to its demise. And in a breathtaking display of strategy and sheer survival instinct, the smaller Guardians unwittingly turned against their own. Laser beams crisscrossed the chamber, and the once peaceful Elder Guardian found itself in the crossfire. The battle beneath raged on, a symphony of destruction. The Elder Guardian, surrounded by the very Guardians it had commanded, succumbed to the onslaught. As, in a final burst of chaotic brilliance, one of the smaller Green Guardians fired a fateful beam at the Elder, sealing its fate. As the Elder Guardian fell, a domino effect ensued. The smaller Guardians, stripped of their guiding force, quickly succumbed to the consequences of their own attacks. The once menacing chamber now echoed with the fading cries of the defeated Guardians. The collective demise sealing the fate of this aquatic monument. In the quiet solitude that soon followed, the underwater realm reclaimed its eerie stillness. But as Steve stood there, catching his breath, a sudden bolt of lightning struck the water surface, illuminating the darkened chamber. To his astonishment, it struck the very spot where the Elder Guardian had met its demise. However, as the light subsided, a gleaming trident, forged of divine lightning, descended from the heavens and embedded itself into the prismarine floor. Without hesitation, Steve reached for that trident, its electrifying aura resonating with a power that seemed to course through his veins. The trident hummed with an otherworldly energy, a relic of divine, now cradled in mortal hands. Its glow reflected in Steve's eyes, a testament to the extraordinary weapon now at his disposal. Embracing this newfound power, Steve pressed on through the watery labyrinth, the surge of energy from that trident aiming him with every stroke that he took the trident clear through the ocean with an almost supernatural ease, leaving trails of bright light in its wake. The underwater world seemed to yield to its presence, as if acknowledging the arrival of a force beyond the ordinary. Yet, as Steve swam on for hours, a haunting familiarity returned. It was that haunting melody and the enigmatic red glow. The trident, now an extension of his determination, guided him towards the source of this mysterious disturbance. With every stroke, the sound grew louder, echoing through the underwater corridors. Steve's senses heightened as he approached the anticipation building with each passing moment. Then, in a burst of crimson resonance, the second Elder Guardian, which materialized alongside a renewed horde of Guardians. The underwater arena once again became the stage for a clash of titans. Steve brandished the divine trident, its glow pulsating with newfound power. The smaller Guardians, resilient but outmatched, fell one by one to the piercing strikes of that enchanted weapon. The Elder Guardian, a formidable foe, resisted with a display of defensive maneuvers, but Steve, with a blend of agility and precision, exploited that creature's vulnerabilities, swimming after him and throwing the trident with all his might and power. And as the last Guardian succumbed to the trident's might, Steve stood before the Elder Guardian. There was nothing that it could do. It was going to die. And so, in one last throw, Steve lunged at the beast and defeated it. And so, as Steve stood victorious in the wake of that aquatic battleground, the divine weapon hummed with satisfaction, its glow reassuring Steve of his safety. Yet, the symphony of the deep remained unsettled as the haunting melody persisted. But then, as if the currents of destiny swirled in anticipation, a familiar sound echoed once more. Steve, poised for whatever revelation awaited him, sensed a surge of energy. True to the strange pattern, a bolt of lightning crashed down where the Elder Guardian had died. However, this time, the divine energy forged something new. An enchanted set of diamond armor, covered with the unmistakable glow of the Tide Rune. The armor, encrusted with ancient power, beckoned to Steve. Intrigued and fueled by the desire for more formidable protection, he swam towards the glowing treasure. As Steve reached out to grasp the enchanted armor, a surge of energy coursed through him. The armor adhered to him like a second skin, its glow bending with the divine resonance of the trident. Empowered and clad in the formidable Tide Rune armor, Steve felt an unprecedented sense of invincibility. He tested his newfound might, the water yielding effortlessly to his movements. Steve was now a force of nature in his own right, believed himself to be unstoppable. The underwater realm bowed to his will. as he swam confidently through the cold, dark depths. Yet, in the darkened expanse of the ocean, an unsettling undercurrent lingered. A whisper of uncertainty that hinted at the challenges yet to unfold. The symphony of the deep played on, and Steve, now a titan of the abyss, ventured forth with newfound might, unaware of the trials awaiting him in the watery unknown. As Steve ventured through the dark, underwater labyrinth, the monotony of the journey began to wear upon him as hours seemed to blend into one another. And then a realization dawned upon him. He was swimming in a colossal loop, trapped in the disorienting depths with no apparent progress. Hunger gnawed at him, a persistent reminder of the physical toll that this adventure had exacted upon him. With each stroke, he could feel the energy draining from him, the currents sapping his strength. The waters, once allies, now became adversaries, tugging him in all directions. The weight of exhaustion hung heavily, threatening to pull him into the abyss. And worse than that, he had no food to replenish his hunger and weakness. And so, things were not looking good as Steve began to struggle to survive. But just as despair threatened to overtake him, a glimmer of hope appeared. An undiscovered passage in the watery maze. He hadn't seen that entrance in all the loops that he had undergone across this monument. And so, Steve, driven by a renewed sense of purpose, swam through the brand new entrance, and what awaited him on the other side was beyond comprehension. As Steve swam through a dark corridor that led into a chamber. But that chamber sparkled with untold riches, as there were heaps of gold blocks and gold ingots and gold nuggets strewn about like forgotten treasures, with subscribe buttons hiding in the corners. The very aura of that room radiated wealth. It was as if the ocean itself had become a vault of opulence. Steve, momentarily forgetting about his fatigue, marveled at the spectacle before him. Not to mention the piles of golden melon, which was an unexpected banquet in the heart of this abyss. The room seemed to whisper promises of reward, a treasure trove conjured from the mysterious depths. Steve, overcome by a mix of hunger and curiosity, set to gathering the golden bounty, as this was all his, before eventually devouring the glistering golden melons. Their flavor, an odd mixture of sweetness and the metallic tang of the precious metal. Finally, his health began to regenerate. Yet, as he feasted, a sudden shiver ran down his spine, an unsettling feeling that something lingered in the shadows. Then, with the symphony of the deep, a haunting melody echoed once more. Steve, with his senses heightened, froze mid-bite as a new wave of foreboding washed over him. The chamber, once a beacon of reward, now seemed to harbour secrets that transcended mere material wealth. Steve's surroundings began to shift. The once illuminated waters darkened, and the gleaming treasure now cast eerie shadows. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had merely scratched the surface of a mystery far greater than the glistering gold before him. The ocean, it seemed, held far more than riches. It held secrets waiting to be unraveled. And Steve, armoured with both his trident and the enchanted Tidrune armour, stood poised, ready to confront the enigma that lurked in the watery depths. And so, just a few seconds later, at the glimmering treasure trove, the tranquil illusion shattered as a sudden upheaval marked the arrival of the third Elder Guardian, a malevolent force accompanied by its relentless followers. They surged towards him with a ferocity that eclipsed their predecessors, charging at Steve with a hunger for retribution. The trident, once an invincible ally, now seemed feeble against the onslaught as the Guardians fought with an unworldly instinct, their beams draining Steve's strength. He couldn't outrun them, and so he struggled as the once mighty hero now stood on the brink of defeat. The relentless assault left him grasping for air, his life force draining away in the cold embrace of the ocean. As despair threatened to claim him, the haunting melody echoed once more. A desperate symphony, urging him to defy the encroaching darkness. Steve, battered and on the verge of surrender, clung to the otherworldly sound like a lifeline. And so, fueled by a surge of determination, he rallied against the onslaught in a fit of rage. With every ounce of strength, Steve unleashed a barrage of attacks. The trident, now an extension of his sheer willpower, cut through the water with his newfound strength. The combatants locked in a dance of survival and annihilation. In a stunning display of resilience, Steve managed to defeat all those guardians before ending the life of the third Elder Guardian. The underwater arena echoed with the clash of victory and defeat. As, just like before, where the Elder Guardian had been killed, a bolt of lightning cracked through the watery expanse, bringing with it the arrival of another mysterious gift. This time, the gift bestowed upon Steve was a peculiar green egg. The hero, bewildered and intrigued, approached the enigmatic item, confused by it, as he had never seen such an egg before. Yet, as he drew closer, a faint hissing reached his ears. Bewilderment turned into caution, and Steve, with a sudden realization, examined the egg more closely. The scales on the egg bore an unmistakable resemblance to a creeper, a creature synonymous with explosive danger. Steve, shocked by the revelation, understood that this was no ordinary gift. It was a creeper egg, a volatile entity encapsulated in a fragile shell. And so, in order to protect this unexpected entity, Steve carefully covered the egg in a protective cloak and concealed it within his inventory. Uncertainty clouding his judgment as he pondered the implications of this peculiar gift from the depths of the abyss. But even after Steve's discovery of the creeper egg, the room's secrets continued to unfold as a hidden door concealed beneath one of the gold stands opened forwards. Steve was intrigued, but as he stepped through the entrance of that door, he tumbled through an air pocket, falling out of the ocean monument. Oh no, this can't be good. But thankfully, he landed in a puddle of water in a colossal prismarine chamber, shrouded in darkness and cold. The distant echoes of the storm permeated the air, giving the cavern an ominous atmosphere. A dimly lit path stretched before Steve, leading him towards a mysterious source of red and green hues. The room seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, and so he ventured cautiously, the shadows dancing around him as he walked. But as Steve proceeded, the enigmatic scene revealed itself. An awe-inspiring guardian, bathed in a red glow, was the source of his vision. The once dark and cold room now pulsed with an otherworldly warmth emanating from this radiant creature. But this warm embrace felt wrong. But still, Steve kept on going, quickly noticing the guardian positioned in an unusual stance as he was faced upwards towards the ceiling. Then, as if the guardian itself was a conduit for the mysterious sound, the haunting melody echoed once more, this time deafeningly loud. The symphony of the deep emanated from that guardian, a surreal harmony resonating with unfathomable power. A mix of fear and fascination coursed through Steve as he inched closer to the radiant guardian, fearing what this being could do. The sound, now almost overwhelming, seemed to be an integral part of this celestial being. The Guardian's glow intensified as if responding to their echoing melody, creating a demonic spectacle in the heart of the prismarine chamber. Unsure of what he was witnessing, Steve continued his approach until the unexpected occurred. As, in a blinding flash of light, the ceiling dissolved, revealing the open expanse of the ocean above. The boundless depths stretched limitlessly, and the mysterious red light that haunted the villagers, the sailors, and Steve himself emanated from the very guardian that stood before him. However, the revelation didn't end with the illumination of the underwater world. No, as that red light, once thought to be just a mere glow, revealed its true nature. It was a conduit, a summoning force linked to the eye of the hurricanes that had wreaked havoc onto the village, claimed the lives of the sailors, and devastated the very fabric of not just the oceanic realm, but the neighboring innocent lands as well. This guardian, responsible for the anguish that had fallen upon so many, now faced a hero with his trident raised, determined to bring justice to all those who had suffered, and to the village that now lay in ruins. Steve aimed his trident at that guardian, the very weapon that had killed those Elder Guardians now seemed to hum with a renewed purpose. Yet, as Steve readied himself for the clash, a realization dawned upon him. The Guardian had now turned to face him, and it bore an unsettling transformation. Its eye, once a source of mystical energy, now gleamed with malevolence and was the source of the red light. A shiver ran down Steve's spine, a silent warning that this battle would not be like the ones earlier. But undeterred, Steve summoned his courage and unleashed the power of the trident upon him. The battle between the hero and the malevolent guardian erupted in a maelstrom of energy, each strike reverberating through the underwater chamber, the currents of vengeance colliding with the currents of the storm. In this clash of titans, the fate of the ocean hung in balance. The battle unfolded in a symphony of chaos as the eye of the hurricane met the unyielding force of the trident-wielding hero. And as the battle between Steve and the malevolent guardian intensified, the storm overhead grew more furious, echoing the ascending power of the monstrous foe. The Guardian, fueled by some unholy force, expanded into a colossal monstrosity. Lightning crashed down with relentless fury, and the very fabric of time seemed to warp, stretching moments into eternities. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds and the chance to escape, Steve pressed on, his resolve born of a need for justice and retribution fueled his every strike. The underwater arena had become a chaotic background where the currents of vengeance clashed with the growing might of the malevolent Guardian. As the tempest raged, Steve found himself losing ground. The Guardian's monstrous form and the surging storm became insurmountable obstacles. Each strike of the trident met a counterforce that seemed to bend the very rules of the underwater world. The hero, battered and weary, faced the realization that victory was slipping through his grasp. And in the fate of impending defeat, just as Steve was about to succumb to the overwhelming power of the malevolent Guardian, a sudden transformation occurred as Steve began to glow with an otherworldly radiance. Time, which seemed to slow, now hung suspended in a moment of rebellion. With a mighty surge of power, Steve summoned the last reserves of his strength as he hurled the trident directly into the eye of that monstrous Guardian. The underwater realm quaked as the trident pierced the malevolent gaze, extinguishing the unnatural force that fueled the storm. In a blinding flash, the Guardian's colossal form crumbled into nothingness. Steve, battered but victorious, stood amidst the dissipating storm. The turbulent currents that had wrought destruction now began to calm, and the once furious waves receded. Silence settled over the underwater world as the storm clouds dispersed. Steve, still bathed in the fading glow of his recent transformation, stood amidst the remnants of the battlefield. The weight of victory and the magnitudes of the journey he had undertaken weighed heavily on him, and a longing for peace and solitude stirred within his weary heart, deciding that the time had come to leave the depths behind. And so, as Steve ventured back to the surface, the underwater abyss faded from view. And the surface, bathed in the soft light of day, welcomed him back. And a few days later, arriving at his magnificent log cabin, Steve closed the door behind him for what he hoped would be the final time, shutting away the outside world that was filled with evil and malevolence in every corner. Steve, from that moment onwards, decided that he didn't want to go on any more adventures, and instead, he just wanted to live a peaceful life in his cabin. Learn what happened next in this video.